All right, well, let's get started. So welcome to the Genesis Audio Tech and Design Facebook Live event. Tonight's topic is home theater design. I'm Risa Schultz with We Connect, and I am joined by John Centers, the owner of Genesis Audio, and we're going to be moderating tonight's conversation. We're excited to be joined by a panel of experts. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself. So tell us your name, your company, and a little bit about what you do. So John, why don't you start first?
My name is John Centers. I'm the president of Genesis Audio, and we build dreams. We help you realize what you want to do, where you want to do it, and we help you achieve it.
Amazing. Jason, why don't you go next?
My name is Jason Ehrlich. I'm with Kinetics Noise Control. Been here over 22 years. A lot of that time was spent in the commercial noise control acoustic design world, kind of working with architects, acoustical consultants, engineers, contractors, just trying to make sure that the acoustic design went really well. These days, I kind of take that knowledge and experience, and we work on both the room acoustics and noise control for the home and commercial markets.
Great. Okay, and Todd?
My name is Todd Cooperrider. I'm a long-time customer of Genesis Audio. First met the guys back in about '99. My day job, I am a founder of Esoteric Detailing in New Albany, Ohio. We kind of like John, we specialize at very high end of what we do. And then in all that spare time that I have, I'm a professional reviewer for a online magazine called Secrets of Home Theater and High Fidelity. And audio is something that's been a hobby of mine about the time I started to drive and got into car stereos, and the sickness never went away afterwards.
Yes. Well, once you get that bug in your blood, it does not go away. I can speak to that. So if you're watching at home, feel free to leave comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those towards the end. So let's get started. John, you've been in the business for about 25 years. You've built multiple home theaters and seen the technology evolve over the years. Can you define what a home theater is and talk about the elements of home theater design?
Well, the home theater is a space in your home that you want to experience music or movies or television. It has a basic design to it, but the principle behind it is it's your castle, your rules. You know, we can make a bedroom a home theater if that's where you choose to watch movies, but the space is wherever you want it to be. And what I want to show here is that space doesn't always have to be ideal. And we had the pleasure of working with Todd on several revisions of this particular room, and making it better and better each time.
And what are the elements? So talk just a little bit about when you're thinking about designing a home theater, what components or what elements go into the room?
Well, you've got to look at lighting, you've got to look at shades, because you want to be able to control the light in the space. You definitely have to look at acoustics. That's probably some of the best value that you're going to get within that room as far as return on investment. The theater seating, and the layout of the space, but most of all, how you want that room to look when it's completed and when it's done.
Right. So audio and screens,
the
too.
Sound and the picture. It's kind of a whole package that kind of comes together.
Right. So a lot of elements go into designing a home theater. Yeah, so Jason, just building on the fact that sound is such an important component of home theater, but when people think about audio, they typically think about speakers, components, equipment. They don't typically think about noise control and acoustics. So can you talk to us about what typical noise control is and the benefits of it in a home theater setting?
Sure. So we kind of would look at it in two different ways. You have the room acoustics. What's the quality of the sound inside that space versus noise control? And basically noise is the easiest definition is noise is just unwanted sound. So anytime that sound escapes the theater and bothers the rest of the household, that's where you're kind of getting into the noise control element. That's obvious to most people. What they might not think about is the experience themselves. If you just built this stream home theater, you don't want to hear someone walking across the ceiling above you if you're down in the basement. So that retaining that experience works both directions, both keeping the noise control inside the theater as well as keeping outside noises from getting in.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And yeah, that's definitely something that people don't think about when they think about, the theater. They're going to think about the picture and the experience. So that's something that goes on that's important behind the scenes. So very good. Todd, so we know that you are working on a home theater design project now, and you are, as you said, you're an audio enthusiast. You review audio products. So you are smarter than the average fifth grader or customer, may we say. So talk to us, like, how did you meet John, and why did you choose Genesis Audio to be your partner on this project?
Like I said, I met those guys back in 98 or 99. We just moved back to Columbus. I'd always been big into audio and got the opportunity to visit high-end audio stores literally around the world in my travels. And, once I got to find them and find how welcoming they were, back in the early days when I was stopping by, they were always welcoming me in, show me new stuff, show me around, let me listen to whatever. I didn't have a budget back then for doing anything crazy. I had a modest system. But as the years went on, I continued to get more stuff from Genesis. I liked everything about them. To me, anything that I'm buying, that customer experience is so important. How they walk you through the process, how they educate you, and then just welcoming you into their business. And that stayed throughout the years. They became customers of my business, and I became customers of theirs. They did all the audio video setup in the building that my business is out of. And the big thing, while I write audio reviews and I study and research stuff all the time, there's a lot of stuff that I simply I don't have the kind of background that they do. They're working with this kind of stuff every single day. And I know that I can go to John to say, hey, John, these are some of the challenges that I'm facing. What are some of the options or solutions? And he's going to be able to come up with some alternatives or tell me ways to think about it that I never would have even thought about before, particularly when it comes to the construction side of things. I'm the type of guy, I hire people to do construction. I'm not a DIY person when it comes to saws and hammers and all that stuff. And these guys know that really well. And it helps me, really open up to some of the ideas that can be done in my space, which is why I go to an expert like John to have this stuff done.
Right. Well, I definitely think that speaks volumes to the quality of work that you've received over the years from Genesis Audio, and coming from an audio enthusiast, that's really a nice stamp of approval for you, John. So very good. So now I want to get into this project that you're working on now, because I know, John, you are working on a home theater design project in Todd's home. So why don't we dive into the project now? And why don't you start with, describe the space that you're working on? Let's talk about this.
Well, first, Todd, I'd like to thank you for being a part of this and allowing us to kind of share what's going on. The idea here is I want people to know the process and what it's about to be a client of Genesis Audio. And Todd has agreed to kind of let us film or document or look behind the curtain of how we go through this. And, I've got some of the things up on the wall here with the goals and the obstacles and the solutions of what we're trying to do. And so I want to go through those things with Todd and with Jason to kind of fill out our board the same way I would if we were sitting in your home and a pad of paper and trying to get some solutions. I've got some pictures of the space from, I mean, Todd, this is going to be what, the third revision of this area.
Yeah.
And each version has gotten better and better and better. And we've got a few of those versions on there, but as each version got better, we ran into a few more obstacles, and then, some of the challenges that we had in the beginning, we weren't able to get a really large screen television in the room. And now we're going to try to address that. If I can get you to put a slide up for me, Risa, what I'd like you to do is to put up the number 4 slide.
Sure. Do you see that?
Yeah. So this is the initial version in a completed state of the room. When we first did it on day one, well, actually it was a little after, because you had the mural done on that wall.
Yeah, but it was basically like that. Put it this way, we built the house, we closed on it, and before we even started moving anything in, Genesis had already been in there. They did a 8-zone video and audio solution throughout the rest of the house. They had this stuff in here ready to go before we even start moving any of our stuff in. Priorities.
Yeah, you got to have priorities. So, I mean, as you can see with this room, it's got its challenges. I mean, we've got windows at one end. It's more of a longer, narrower space. And there's another picture, Risa, if you could put it up. It's what slide number is it? Number 3. So number 3 is kind of during the construction phase. You can see that the back half of that room is a kitchen, and there's stairs going to another area. So it's not a dedicated theater. And I think a lot of people have spaces like this that maybe they might want to entertain, making it more of a family room for movies and entertainment. And this kind of shows that can be done. If we can go back to slide 4.
Sure.
So with this area, during the first phase, some of the challenges that we had was trying to get the wiring into the areas that we needed without disturbing a lot of the walls. We on the left side, we're able to conceal that wire, but on the right side during that phase we weren't. So we kind of tucked it underneath the molding. And that's one of the things I think we want to address coming up in this next portion, is concealing some of those wires and making some of those things go away. You can go back to the regular grid view now.
Sure.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of go over some of the goals that we talked about, Todd, when we sat down and we were trying to figure out this next phase. So I remember that we wanted a bigger TV because
we wanted a bigger TV. It was really motivated by got tired of posting pictures of the system up on Instagram, and every single time there's somebody that gave me a hard time about, why you have such a small screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was 65 inch, but compared to some of the other, equipment, it made it look small. And started thinking, we want to go with something bigger. And then do we want to go with projection, or do we want to go with just a large screen? So jumping up to a little bit bigger in there was definitely the first goal that we wanted to achieve.
Yeah, and then so in that space, the acoustics of that room. Jason, you had a chance to do some initial analysis of that space and where it kind of rated on its scale. What was that?
Just we start out with slide 10, because that was basically the before treatment.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I started with.
Can you show that one for us?
Yes.
So that's really the same as 4 that we've been looking at. So
So slide 10, 4. Yes. This
yeah.
one.
Oh, actually, slide 11 is the one I was talking about, where you did your reverb calculation.
Correct. So what I did was we have a program that we can use, and people can get with John, and we can he can hook this up for you. But basically, we look at all the materials in the room, and we look at how reflective it is and how absorptive it is. So with this room, as you saw in that picture, you have the carpet, you have the couch. Those are fairly absorptive items. Those actually help with some of that sound control in that space. But the painted drywall and the windows are very, very reflective. And what you're seeing in that dashed line is basically the reverb time, how much kind of echo is in that space. And for a home theater environment, you know, some opinions will vary, but typically we want to aim where that green line is, half of a second. So that's how much echo is happening in here. And you can see that down here at various frequencies at 125 hertz, which is a kind of a low frequency, that's all the way on the left-hand side, all the way up to 4,000. As we get higher and higher frequencies, so say 2,000 and 4,000, that carpet and that couch are actually kind of absorbing a lot of the high frequency energy in the room. At the same time, we were left with all this low frequency and middle frequency kind of booming. And so that is definitely a space that you want to treat with acoustical treatment, because it's, one, very unbalanced, and two, on that low end, it's also very, very high from an echo standpoint.
Well, and from a home theater standpoint, that 1,000 hertz range is right where the vocals are. And the echo, to kind of explain that a little bit,
Yes.
we've all been in a gymnasium. And when you walk into a gymnasium, you have all of this huge volume going around. And when you bounce a basketball, you hear it 4 times. That's kind of the same sense. And when you can kind of walk from, in your own home, walk from room to room and just clap your hands or talk, and you'll hear how much reverberation is within that space. And what's important is right there at that 1,000 hertz range, that's the vocals. That's in the musical portion, that's the singer's voice. And in the movies, that's the dialogue. So if we get too much echo there, you start getting fatigued after a period of time, and it doesn't sound as good. So there's some different treatments that you've kind of thought of, Jason, for addressing that. We can kind of touch on that a little bit towards the backside, as far as what materials we would use and things of that sort. What I'd like to,
if I could, before we move on, just to kind of give people an idea of some of these different times things. So a home theater, you want that time to be very low, that half second. And the reason is you want the speakers to be the source of the sound. So if you're watching a scene that takes place in a cathedral, the sound director is going to put the reverberation into the soundtrack. The worst thing you can have is having the sound bounce off these walls and add its own reverberation on top of it. And that's why you want this very, very low half-second reverb time in a home theater environment. A classroom, for example, where you want kids to be able to learn, is about 0.6 to 0.7 seconds. Whereas the cathedral, where you want pipe organs and you want kind of that power, that's where you get into 2.5 seconds. So you always want to tune it to the right reverberation time for the space. And with a home theater, you want the speakers to be the source of the sound, not the speakers bouncing off the walls.
okay, we can pull that slide down now.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so on those goals, you know, we've got a bigger TV, and better acoustics. Let me kind of write these things up here, just so we want better acoustics. And you've went through and done some treatment on the room already, and during phase 2 of the project, which or was it 3?
Losing count.
Yeah. And if you could pull up slide, which one am I looking at here? Slide 6. That'll show kind of what some of the acoustical treatment is on that room currently. Oh, no, okay.
Let's try that again.
And
Yes. Okay, slide 6.
slide 6, yeah.
Okay. There you go.
So and with that, you can kind of see the chairs changed. You went from your
Regular couch to theater seating.
Right.
yeah, kind of improved that. You added a few more speakers to the surround system.
Yep.
Going, in deeper in the Dolby Atmos realm.
Yep.
Because I think
Can you just really quickly, John, define what is Dolby Atmos?
Oh, Dolby Atmos. So Dolby Atmos is immersive surround sound. And so when Dolby Digital came out, it was a 5.1 surround. And what that means is you had 5 speakers, a left, center, right, and a surround back, or surround left and surround right, with 1 subwoofer. That was the 5.1 surround sound system. That grew from 5.1 to 7.1, which added a side speaker to the room, so that you didn't have the 3 across the front, 1 on each side of the room, and then 2 in the back with a single subwoofer. What Atmos has done is they've actually added up to 32 discrete points for speakers. And when they're mastering the movies, there's actually surround sound used to be thought of as, well, the plane will fly over your head. Well, it does. In an Atmos system, it actually is more realistic, because you have speakers at all these different points, so you feel like you're in this bubble. It's atmospheric, is kind of the way I would term it. So you have better definition, better sound. The volumes don't have to be as loud, which is one of the other parts, because the level of the room is more even, because the speakers are all sharing the load. So you get a more immersive feeling without having to play it at 11.
Yeah, that when you're listening to something that was engineered in Dolby Atmos, like if in the scene you're watching it's raining, you've got rain coming from above, you have thunder coming from above, you have like a third dimension in the sound of it all. It really puts you right in the middle of a scene. And I was happy once we built the house and had Genesis run the wiring and stuff in there. I was a pretty early adopter for having an Atmos setup in the house. I think at that time, John, there were only 2 theaters in Columbus that even had Dolby Atmos back then.
Well, I think we put Atmos in your theater before we actually did it in the theater at the store.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you beat us to the punch, on actually having an Atmos theater.
Yeah.
And it really, it's an inviting, exciting experience, and it's worked out really well, especially in this space, for the acoustics and musically too. I mean, there's another sound field, it's called RO3D, and it is just amazing to listen to music through, because it almost feels like you're sitting at a concert, because you just have all of this ambiance around you that they do a great job with it.
So it's a very immersive experience. You feel like you're in the middle of it.
And it's one of those that you have to, you got to take the time to come in and hear for yourself. I mean, we've got a 23 channel Atmos system here at the store.
Wow.
And I have speakers in places that you wouldn't think you would have speakers, but when you listen to it, there's a couple of demos that I do where it's almost like somebody's talking beside you, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Great.
I wanted to come back to something here, Todd, and I don't mean to to kick it too hard. But one of the problems with this room is it got really cluttered.
Yep.
So one of our goals that Todd and I were talking about was, how do we clean this up? How do we make this look better? Because, you know, from our end, being the audio guys, we absolutely love it. Sometimes the wives are not as accepting of that space, and you know, they don't want to see everything that's in there, but they enjoy it. They just don't want to see it. So one of the things that we were talking about doing was, you know, you don't need to have everything in the room. So we're gonna look at cleaning the space up. Let me put that up here as one of the goals.
Yes.
And then a first world problem, having too many pieces of stereo gear, and
It is. And from the female perspective, which I'll give, it's true. We don't typically like to see wires and lots of speakers everywhere. So we'll be curious to see what the final product is for the new version.
It's going to be good. I mean, and the thing is, I think we're going to end up with something that's going to be like the best of both worlds. So what I wanted to dive into a little bit here was some of the challenges that we have. And if you look at the space, you know, we've got that 65-inch TV, and it does look small. I mean, it looks like a 55.
Yep.
But we personally have lifted it and put it in there. It's definitely a 65, and it weighs like a 65. But Todd and I were talking, and one of the things that we discussed was, well, what about doing projection? And looking at the space, it didn't lend itself well to projection because of the windows that are behind it. And you know, the windows have blinds, but as you can see, there's a little bit of light that leaks in around. So we couldn't have complete light control, and to have light behind the screen would be too distracting. So what we've opted for is to go to an 85-inch flat panel, and I think we're looking at the 8K. If you don't mind me, we're going to do the new 8K Sony. But the problem with the 8K Sony is it's as tall as that landing is to the ceiling. So that wouldn't look good. And we don't have a way to mount it on the wall. So the idea came out that we'll just build that wall out a little bit, give us a platform, and enable us to mount that television at the ideal angle to make the viewing right, and then also center it within that space. That also opened up a few options that we didn't have before, which gave us the ability to create chases to conceal that wire that currently is all kind of compacted behind there. But I also think it's important to say that this project, it is not I mean, you didn't give me a cost no object kind of budget, you know, and you know, we have to make sure that everything we do, every dollar that we spend, we get the biggest return and the biggest bang for the buck, because you know, there's so much that, you know, you work hard for your money. I mean, you know, so we don't want to waste it and throw it away.
I appreciate that, John.
Yeah.
Well, and I try to be mindful of that. It runs away sometimes. I know, you know, when we're looking at some of the things that we enjoy. But some of the parts that we're doing here, so by building that wall, we run into an obstacle, and the obstacle is on the acoustic side. And Jason and I have talked a little bit ahead of time as well. When you build that false wall, you end up with a cavity between the existing wall and the new wall, and it's almost like a drum. So, you know, some of the things that What's your thought, Jason, on how do we address that issue? How do we keep that from, adding more problems to the space?
So this is a little bit of an unusual noise control situation where it's not necessarily trying to prevent noise from escaping the room. It's really trying to prevent this new wall from becoming a noise source and rattling around. And we're going to look to kind of some products that it's damping the system. And the best way for me to describe that is if you kind of ring a bell, it ding, ding, dong, ding, dong. But if you put your finger on the bell itself, it will just kind of go clunk. And so we're going to have to look at that wall because it's not load bearing, because there's really not a whole lot of load on it. And we're going to have to add products to both the drywall, the framing, and those chases, so that as those big old subwoofers and the other power from those speakers want to get that vibration into that wall, it's going to not want to resonate and rattle. And so unlike typical noise control, we're trying to control the space. We're just trying to make that wall and chase clunky instead of ringing, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay.
And somebody asked a question that I feel it could make sense right now. Is someone asked, can you put sound dampening behind the drywall?
Yes.
You can. We make products that can adhere to sheet metal, can adhere to drywall. We also have a product that can actually go between layers of drywall, and it really makes a theater room, especially with low frequencies, sound really, really, really tight. It does add some noise control between rooms, but really it makes the room, especially a theater room, sound very, very good.
Great.
Yeah, and there's also insulation materials and things of that sort that you can put in there, and that kind of equates to almost like the same insulation that's in your wall for heat and cooling. What is the word I'm looking for? The R value for insulation. Well, there's acoustical properties or acoustical things that can go into these spaces that have that same kind of R value, so to speak.
Okay. All right. So what else are we doing to this room? So we're going to build the wall. You have an 85-inch screen.
We're going to clean up the space so that we have a cleaner look. Some of the things I was talking with Todd about just before we started this, and I kind of sprung it on him because the panels that are on the wall right now, the manufacturer of those panels, they're designed for a lot of DIY kind of things, and they don't look right in this space. And one of the things that Kinetics has, and I think would look really, really good in this space, is so if we kept those wood panels in place, maybe spaced them out a little differently, but in between those we put movie posters. But the movie posters aren't your normal posters. If you look over Jason's shoulder,
I'm going to stop sharing the screen so you can see.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you look over Jason's shoulder, you'll see, the picture of Johnny Depp there. Well, that's an acoustical panel. And I don't know if are you able to move that, Jason? And so it's an acoustical panel and it's printed on fabric. And as you can see, the resolution of it is stunning. So you take your favorite movie poster and we put that in there. So then you get that movie feel, or maybe it's a vinyl, a picture of a record, or it could be a picture of the family dog. But we put those in that space to kind of space it out a little bit, and it won't look as blocky. And I think that'll be helpful from that end.
That's I think that's the real intersection of tech and design right there, where you can print on this fabric that's so dual purpose.
Well, I can tell you, Jason, I'm a big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. So just plan on taking that piece you've got right there and we'll bring it over to the house.
Okay.
That'll be good. Well, and then the acoustical properties of that, Todd, I think is going to fall right in line because we're not gonna lose anything from what was there. We're actually gonna gain a little bit. So we're gonna gain a little bit better look, and we're gonna probably be able to fine tune that reflection point
Sure.
very well.
Yep.
So what was some of the other?
And I know one of the big things for cleaning up that space you talked about, because that one wall goes down into yet another lower basement level, taking some of the equipment that's not absolutely needed, maybe some of the theater equipment, putting it down a rack in the basement, running the wires up through there, so it declutters some of that gear a bit. Because the challenge that I face with being a reviewer, I'm constantly swapping out gear and redoing things, particularly on the 2-channel side of things. So I need to have easy access to all that. But on the home theater side of things, I don't need to have as quick access to it.
Well, and keeping the operation simple, is also key. I mean, we put the Control 4 system in there so that you've got that universal remote to sit down and watch things, and it turns on the TV and it does all of these different pieces, parts. And I think if we're able to clean up that space so that when you come in to do a review, we give you that panel that you can plug into that, gets you connected. You can do the review, ship the equipment back, and not really lose the use of your space.
But what is, I guess, what is the primary purpose of this space? What are you going to use this space for most?
Mostly it's going to be for, it's divided pretty equally in music listening or reviewing, and then movie watching with the family. The back end of it, as you saw in the other pictures, got a bar back there, bar and bathroom and stuff. But that's mostly what it's used for. We have a separate living area upstairs. It's a 5-level split. This is 1 level downstairs. So that's really what it's used for, is destroying my hearing slowly over time.
Oh yes, and those legacy speakers are absolutely stunning. I've had the privilege of sitting in this room and doing some listening, and it really does. I mean, that's the one thing. This room sounds amazing, but I think we can make it just a little bit better. And I think we can make it look a whole lot better, and give you a little bit of freedom with being able to move equipment around and not have to work around it so much.
Yep.
It sounds, I mean, it sounds, John, like Genesis can really create and customize a home theater to anybody's needs. So it doesn't have to be when someone might think of a home theater, it doesn't have to be a standalone home theater. What you're demonstrating here is that it can be a multi-purpose room integrated into your home, and that you can truly design this area to the specs of your customers' dreams.
It really can. I mean, we just finished a project down in Naples, and the customer had this condo, and it was a full JBL synthesis, Atmos surround sound, and you didn't see a thing, but it sounded amazing. And it was the room was their grand salon. There was a bar at one side, there was a kitchen at the back end, a little nook for eating, the dining room. It was like all one big full floor plan. And he was able to play his records and listen to his movies and watch TV, all fully integrated. And it wasn't complicated. I mean, it's got to be simple, and I think that's one of the goals with every room that we do, is it just has to be simple. It has to be livable, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because I know people have concerns about, can I do a surround sound system in my living room? Because my living room is not like anybody else's. Well, the truth is, it really is like everybody else's. We all have our challenges. We all have our, large sectionals or small couches or big chairs that we have to work around. And it's your passion. I mean, it's your castle, it's your rules. we can help you kind of get there is kind of what I was hoping to the message I was hoping to get across. And Todd, I really, really, really appreciate you letting us kind of talk into your space and kind of show behind the curtain a little bit with what we're doing. You know, I love going over and seeing what you guys do at Esoteric, because they really are the automotive equivalent of Genesis Audio. I mean, they're just masters at what they do. And I want to be the same thing to you for this space. And I want to show you that, you know, I can do a few things that will enlighten the space. We'll get that bigger TV in there so those Instagram people can stop giving you grief.
The screen size does matter.
Yeah.
Screen size does matter. And we'll dial in the room on looks, but then we'll also make it a lot easier for swapping things in and out, because I don't know, I want to show a couple more pictures, because there's these beautiful murals that were painted in this room. If you go to the screen 9, it shows that the back of the room, and this Tuscan mural that's painted on these walls. It really is. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. Does this smell?
No, there we go. Yeah, and the artist that did that work is just amazing.
Yeah, he spent I think 10 days, solid days working on this, working on details and levels. That, you know, it's kind of like a government project. It started out, it was supposed to be a simple mural, and it took 3 times as long and 4 times as expensive as what we had originally planned. But it's a really cool, excuse me, addition, especially when you have people over, or when we used to be able to have people over, to go down there and be able to enjoy that and have some drinks and have movies or music playing. So I think I know what you're saying, John. You know, try to get something that you know ties the two halves of the room together a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you've got the beautiful artistry in the back, and you've got this gorgeous equipment in the front, and we just need something to kind of blend it and make it all look like it's supposed to be together.
Yep.
Yeah, get some continuity. And the great thing is the guys at Kinetics can help us maintain the acoustics, you know, because the sound is primary. I mean, you're reviewing these high-end speakers and things, so you know we can't you know let any of that go away. But I think if we do some tweaks and things, we'll be able to kind of dial it in and go to that next level. And so what we're going to do, so everyone's aware, is we're going to take and we're going to photograph this process. And we're going to put the pictures up on Facebook as we kind of go along. So you're going to see this wall go up. You're going to see these chases created. You're going to see the television go into place, and you're going to see the room transform. And you can be the judge of what we've done. I mean, because acoustically right now, this room sounds awesome. Visually, it's missing a little bit. And I think that's where Kinetics can kind of help. Functionally, it works great for Todd, but then again, you kind of see that there's a stack of equipment here and a bunch of equipment there. When we pull the final reveal out, I think you're going to see a different space, and I think it's going to meet all of the goals that you have, Todd. And I don't think we hit all of them in this, because I've got, you know, a bigger TV, a cleaner look, better acoustics, and easier to swap gear out. What are some of the other concerns that we have that we talked about? I can't think of them right offhand. I know.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about adding a couple of height channels or height wide channels up front to give a little bit of more of an immersive experience. You know, the cables, the cleanup. You know, I got about 10 miles of cables on the floor back there, which I personally don't mind, but you know,
I know your wife. I know your wife does.
Yeah, and she will agree to that. But you know, those kind of things, and having a little bit, you know, better looks to go along with it. You know, I don't know if we mentioned earlier. I know we were talking about before we went live here, but on the acoustic side of things, and where Kinetics going to be able to come in and help. I told Jason the other day that you know, with all of the equipment that I've had through that room throughout the years, nothing has made a bigger difference as when I did the acoustical treatment in that space. So for anybody who is looking to have something like that done, don't skimp on that.
Great.
And it's not expensive. I mean, it's costly. I mean, it's everything is. It's all relative. But the return on investment for acoustics is massive. I mean, it'll make a $3,000 pair of speakers sound like they're $6,000 or $7,000. So you'll be able to double the investment of the existing electronics, and the cost of that, you know, might be in the $1,000 range. So, you know, if you spend $1,000 and you get $3,000 worth of performance, you know, there's not a lot of places in our industry where you can get that kind of return on investment, you know, and
exactly.
And also kind of maintain, get a better look. So,
yep. Yeah, I look forward to it. It should be fun. You know, 6 years has gone by kind of quickly since we did the first version of it when I built the home. We learned a couple of things in areas I may have looked over or looked past, not thinking far enough in the future. And I would recommend that to any customer. If you even have this slightest hint that maybe someday you might want to put a projection system in while you have the place all torn apart, run the wires. It's only going to cost you a couple $100, but it'll cost you thousands of dollars if you decide to add it later.
Yes, free wire is, and we didn't even get into all the technical elements of really designing a home theater tonight. That's going to be another Facebook Live, so stay tuned for that. But pre-wire is so important, and that's something we talk about with any type of project that John does, is because you don't want to be opening walls later on. When you're building your house, you want to pre-wire for all of these things, future-proof your home for that. So
right. I mean, even when we go in and we pull these additional wires for the ceiling, we're probably going to put a couple in for maybe phase 4 or phase 5, because you never know what the future is going to bring, but I can tell you that you're going to want it.
Yes. Well,
yeah, absolutely. Well, what gets me every time, and I'm gonna recommend this to everybody out there, especially in the Central Ohio area, go over to Genesis, get in their main theater room, let John or Don or one of the guys there do some demos for you, because what's going to happen, and what John loves, is you're going to say, well, I thought my system was good, but darn it, anyhow, now I got to go spend a lot more money because I realize how much more potential there is. But until you have experienced a system like that, you really have no idea of the kind of entertainment value you can get in your own home, if you go to somebody that really knows how to put it all together.
Yes. And what I love, Todd, about your story is that you don't have to, you're going to go and you're going to want you're going to want the best of the best when you sit in that theater, because it's truly about the experience. But what we're seeing from you and your story is that you don't have to start there. You don't have to worry about spending more money than you want to. You can do this in phases. You can plan it, you can start, and you can add, and you can build upon it. And as the technologies change, you can do those things. And Genesis is a great partner to do that with. So
yeah, absolutely.
Very, very good. Well, let me just see if there's, because we've got to kind of wrap this up now. See if there's any other questions. We kind of got to a lot of the questions in the chat. The only thing that I'll ask before we go is someone, talked about, and we didn't talk too much about this, but placing your seating and how it impacts the screen and the size. Like, that's one of the things that you'll probably consider. And with this new screen size, are you going to have to change the location of the seats in the room?
We're gonna have to definitely look at that. because with the larger screen, I think we're far enough back. We might have to go back about a foot, but we're within that realm currently.
Yeah, our screen size, we're good on the distance, but as we build that wall out, and then I have to bring all the speakers out a little bit further and everything else, that's going to have an effect too. So, you know, we have to work.
It'll shift back about 18 inches, and when we do that, we're going to go through and remap those Atmos speakers to make sure that they're in the right spot.
Yep.
Because there's a certain formula for getting those in the right angle. And I don't want to get too deep with it because there's a whole lot of math, and this great guy named Dr. Floyd Toole, who wrote this huge book on psychoacoustics and where things need to be and so on and so forth. That, you know, if you want to stop by the store, I can kind of share with you all of that information. And because of the time that we're in and everything else, we are very COVID conscious. So we're always, you know, wearing our masks when we're around people. And we ask people that come in to please have theirs. If you don't have one, we have one that we can provide for you, but we ask you that you wear it, just to kind of keep you safe and to keep us safe as well. We sanitize the store constantly to make sure that all the surfaces are clean, so you don't have to worry about coming into a petri dish. We try to keep everything sanitized and taken care of. So when you come in to have that demo, and if you take Todd's advice, I promise you won't be disappointed. The room that we have is a 23 channel Atmos system that you'll think that there's something in the chairs that vibrate, but there's not.
It's amazing.
It's all about the experience. So yeah, so we definitely encourage everybody to stop by Genesis Audio and live the experience for yourself. And, you know, stay tuned. Like John said, we are going to be following the story on Genesis Audio social media. So you will be able to see the progress, and we are going to come back with a Facebook Live with the end product. So we're not going to leave you hanging. So you'll get to see, you know, the noise control that Kinetics designed and put in this room, and you'll get to see what the finished product looks like. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, just so that if anybody has any questions or would like to reach out to any of our panel members, you can contact them directly via email. Here's everybody's contact information. So feel free if you want to reach out to anybody if you have questions. But definitely thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you to our panel. Thank you to our audience. And stay tuned, you know, for the next Facebook Live, and stay tuned for the pictures and footage of what's coming with this great project. And again, just, you know, realize that when you're building a home theater, a partner like Genesis Audio is, you know, the team to go to, and that they can really build your theater the way you want it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Risa. Todd, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know that you're on vacation or trying to do a working vacation. Yeah. And I appreciate you kind of, you know, giving me a little bit of time to do this. And I really appreciate it. Jason, thank you too.
Pleasure.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.